the past few years, and that he basically abdicated his duties. But the story goes, what's in it for him? The deputy president has gone rogue. He is the leader of government business when the president is not available, but scarcely has he led any government agenda lately. He is the number 2 in the pecking order of the country's leadership, but today he fights his own government from across an imaginary fence, ridiculing its credentials and scorecards, and generally making a mockery of the last 5 years of the administration he serves. So why does William Samoei Ruto continue drawing a salary? What are the moral, logical explanations of his stay in office? This, I feel, is a story that is very, very interesting because again, this question is one that has been on the minds of most Kenyans, and it is one that the Azimio team has been using to fight his Kenya Kwanza team, that alongside the allegations of corruption and so many other things. So that is a story that continues on page 4 and 5, and it is one we will get into just a little bit more detail.
Well, on the Standard newspaper headlines, we have UHURU'S game plan in succession race, and a quick one there, with President expected to make a major announcement as Sagana on Wednesday. Top politicians speak out on how he's maneuvering to place himself at the center of his succession in play key role after pause. That's a story that continues on page 6 and 7. And a quick overview on other stories in the Standard newspaper. We have Kalonzo gives terms for talks as Muturi hits out at president. We have a story on KCPE and KCSE starting on March 7th, and also Azimio allies to zone out region, says Raila, a story that is on page 8 of the Standard newspaper.
And on page 12 and 13 of the Daily Nation is something that the Swahili people would say lisemalo lipo, na kama lipo laja. Because a lot of people have been talking about, there has been a lot of talk in the country about Kalonzo Musyoka joining the Azimio team, and the headline for that story on the Daily Nation reads, Azimio's big catch, Raila Kalonzo inch closer to 2022 poll deal. ODM and Wiper chiefs met at the Tamarind Hotel hours before holding separate rallies in Tononoka and Kadongo grounds in the port city. That is a story on page 12 and 13. And on page 2 and 3, pay me 14 million shillings, student tells state. It has been almost 6 years since she last saw with her 2 eyes. Every day, Miss Quinta Amondi wonders how different her life would have been had her left eye not been taken out by a bullet that was meant to stop a remandee from escaping from Migori GK prison on May 27, 2016. For months, she lay in hospital, but a game of hide and seek between the Attorney General's office and her lawyer threatens to deny her justice. 21 is the current age of Miss Quinta Amondi. She was shot and injured by a stray bullet. A sad story on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation.
Well, continuing with that story about Oka, which is a story on page 4 of the Standard newspaper, we have pictured there, we have Gideon Moi, we have NAK Kenya leader Martha Karua, we have Kalonzo Musyoka, and we have politician Chirao Makwere yesterday addressing a political rally at Kadongo ground in Mombasa. And some of what the speculation is there has been that speculation about Oka speaking with Azimio to kind of form a coalition. And a snippet of what's in the story is that Kalonzo, Raila hold breakfast talks ahead of respective rallies at Tononoka and Kongowea. Both leaders were in Mombasa County but in different venues. Ultimate plan is to have the 3 Oka parties join Azimio individually after coalition to coalition talks phase handles. So what Kalonzo wanted what Oka wanted as they joined Azimio is that they have a coalition to coalition kind of agreement where if they agree, Oka principle, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, one of the 3, becomes the ultimate deputy president. However, after that conversation seemed to not go through, they say let me just quote and quote here. Beside Kalonzo and other Oka leaders, that is there, a source in Uhuru and Raila's circles yesterday told the Standard that the Oka parties will sign individually to the deal at Kasarani should the talks be concluded in good time. However, according to the source, Oka had demanded for a coalition-to-coalition deal that would have handed them the running mate slot since Raila will be the movement's flag bearer. Oka had demanded to come in as a coalition and part of their demand was to share slots between the two coalitions as equal partners. This was not agreed on, says the source. And however, he said there had been an initial proposal to form a super alliance without a predetermined presidential candidate, just some of what they are saying. And the talks are still there. As Gideon and Karua said, Oka leaders were best placed to slay the ghost of corruption and revive the economy. Well, that's a story you really want to follow up. It's on the page 4 of the Standard newspaper.
And still, well, wow, again on page 4 of the Daily Nation, angry, defiant and disillusioned. Why won't DP Ruto just quit? Just to touch on a bit of this story. What's in it for him? What's the end game and for how long? He says he is not going anywhere, at least not unless he is kicked out, and his political allies are begging him on. Their argument is that the battles Dr. Ruto is fighting now are not ethical, philosophical, or moral, like whether or not to continue drawing a salary for a job you long derelicted, but political. The arguments emanate from an understanding, a conviction, actually, that the Deputy President's tribulations are politically motivated and can therefore only be dwelt with from the political podium, not the disused boardroom at Harambee House Annex. But is that true? Another segment of it, the two roared to State House, that is the Deputy President and the President. The two roared to State House holding hands and wearing matching shirts, but the pecking order of the government, Dr. Ruto is now nothing more than a man who sometimes invites the head of state to speak during public functions. And that's only when he is available and invited. His office remains active, but with significant reduced activity at Harambee Annex, the official working abode of the country's deputy president, right across from Harambee House on Harambee Avenue in Nairobi. Focus has shifted to his official residence in Karen, where he receives delegations associated with the United Democratic Alliance, an opposition party. That is interesting.
Very.
So apparently UDA is now the opposition party of the government. It continues to say in another segment that what Mr. Talam and Mr. Nanok are saying is that the battles DP Ruto is fighting now are not ethical, philosophical, or moral, like whether or not to continue drawing a salary for a job you long derelicted, but political. The arguments emanate from an understanding, a conviction actually, that the Deputy President's tribulations are politically motivated and can therefore only be dwelt with from the political podium, not the disused boardroom at Harambee Annex. That is a story that has a lot more details on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. If you want to read all of it, make sure you get a copy of it. It's something that is interesting, and it's something that I think will seek to answer rather a lot of the questions that a lot of us have been having. And that is also ahead of the Sagana 3 that will be happening, is it on Wednesday?
Yes, on Wednesday. Actually, I wanted to check that story on page 7 of the Standard newspaper. Sagana 3 meeting set up to answer why Raila question. Well, it's a meeting that a lot of people are looking forward to. And one person who is Bishop Minor of Full-Time Winners Gospel Church said part of the agenda will be unity and an explanation by the president on why he fell out with his deputy William Ruto, plus a candid discussion on the political way forward for the Mount Kenya region. The meeting is long overdue. The president, who is still who is still our kingpin, will update the region on the political discourse between him and Ruto and his new alliance with Raila. Well, and another young leader here, Magoshi Muradi, says he had been told to mobilize youths for last Saturday, but the meeting was pushed to Wednesday. And Laikipia Governor Derito Mureithi, one of the key campaigners of Azimio la Umoja in Mount Kenya, is said the meeting would be consultative on the economy and political status of Mount Kenya region, which he said forms a basic factor in Kenyan politics. Well, this is something that a lot of people are waiting up to see on what will transpire. And on page 6 there is another interesting story about just what role will Uhuru play if Raila wins. Politicians unravel intrigues. And a quick briefer here, with President Kenyatta keen on to interrogate Jubilee Party, he could be positioning himself for active role in the next government. Critics want Uhuru to retire, as diplomatic community has sought an assurance that there will be a smooth handover. And on this story, Ruto is one of the people who feels that Uhuru is imposing Raila on the people. And actually on somewhere here I read that he said he calls someone a kibaraka. He wants, or rather Uhuru wants to kind of give us a kibaraka president. That is kind of a remote control president or something. And it's a story that continues from the Sagana 3, joins up on page 6. And if you wish to read it, just grab the Standard newspaper and yes, you get the story there.
Indeed. And on page 7 there is an interview that has been transcribed between Justus Ochieng, who is the chief executive officer and spokesperson of Mr. Odinga's presidential campaign. No, Justus Ochieng is the nation writer, and Miss Elizabeth Mayo, who is the chief executive officer and spokesperson of Mr. Odinga's presidential campaign board. And they talk about their plans to ensure the former prime minister wins the August elections, even as she warns against agents of corruption. Now, that is quite an interesting discussion that they had. But just to highlight a few things from them, like there is this question: are there any circumstances under which you may reconsider picking Mr. Odinga's running mate from the region, that is from the Mount Kenya region? And she answers, just as I have stated, we are to wait and see. I'm sure Mr. Odinga will settle on a running mate who helps move his unity agenda forward, regardless of region of origin. And another one, there's one that was here. Here it is. President Uhuru Kenyatta has openly declared his support for Azimio and promised to hit the road. How do you view this in light of the Odinga State Project tag? And she answers, President Kenyatta has stated openly that he carries only one vote and will give it to his preferred candidate. There is no compelling reason to believe that his declared vote presupposes a state project. We are of course proud and honored to receive the support of the president, and I'm sure our candidate and his team will reward this trust by working hard for Kenyans and not letting the president down. There are so many other questions and so many other replies. What I like the most about this is how she expresses herself and the interests of the party and of course Honorable Raila Odinga. It is the answers that she gives are just wow. I see why she is a spokesperson.
Sure. And one of the best ways to start a day is to take a glass of water, as I'm doing here. And I would recommend you Regis Premium Water. It is pure drinking water, crystal clear, and just one of the best drinks you'd want to have for the day. Well, there is a cartoon on the Standard newspaper, and we can see a gentleman here. And he has a motorbike. On 2017, it's written there, Abana. 2017 election, and the guy is coming down very fast, and the motorbike has the indication NASA. 2022 election, the same guy with the same motorbike, and this it's now Azimio. Well, from the facial physique, we know who that person could be. However, since we are not sure who it is, we just want to let it be that. But he's very, very determined to get to the end. So we wish that guy the very best.
Yeah, indeed we do. Now, on page 12, Kalonzo Raila inch closer to 2022 deal. Excuse me. Last week, Wiper gave Mr. Musyoka the freedom to negotiate pre-election coalition deals with other players ahead of the August 9th general elections. Such discussions would not happen in secret because we have a nation to care for. Should there be coalition talks, then it will be a structured dialogue based on equality of partnership, he said. Mr. Musyoka added that any political formation seeking partnership with the One Kenya Alliance must demonstrate good faith and openness. And I think this is what the cartoon you were just talking about illustrates, because these two, that is Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila Odinga, were in NASA in the previous election. That was before they fell out, and then now again they have not yet reached an agreement, but with the way things are going, I think they will, and so do a lot of Kenyans. And so Kalonzo may join Honorable Raila Odinga in Azimio, but of course we will get to know that as time goes by, and as usual, Wairimu Mogo and I will be here to read the story out for you and explain it on Morning Dew.
Well, yesterday, National Assembly Speaker Muturi launched his presidential bid, and pictured there is DP party presidential aspirant Justin Muturi. There is the deputy party leader, who is Stephen Karao, and Kangema MP aspirant Julia Nyokabi during the party national delegates conference at Bomas of Kenya. A quick one here. One of the major things that Muturi cited is that there is political bad manners, where he said, quote unquote, "Show me anywhere in the world in a functional democracy where a sitting government decides to join forces with the opposition to form another government with complete disregard to the fact that it is the government," said Muturi. These are the political bad manners that I'm talking about. We must stand for something and not just the pursuit of power. He said this during his National Delegates Congress at Bomas of Kenya, and it was kind of we were expecting some kind of an earthquake, kind of, but I don't know where, or I don't know whether Justin Muturi, he's coming in as a presidential candidate, will have any impact. I don't know.
Well, there is this other candidate who is a professor, who also says that he is running for the highest office in the land, and his campaign is basically centered around the sale of marijuana. He says that we can offset the country's debt by selling only 50 bags of it. But that, of course, happens only on social media. And I do think that Justin Muturi is a way better candidate. Still on politics, on page 13, the Deputy President Ruto warns against inflammatory remarks in rallies. This is a story about what the Deputy President had to say in response to Honorable Stanley Livondo's claim that there have been plans to assassinate the president. Dr. Ruto spoke a day after politician Stanley Livondo sensationally alleged that there had been attempts to assassinate President Kenyatta. Dr. Ruto did not, however, directly address the allegations made by Mr. Livondo. During the Thanksgiving ceremony prepared for Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria at Thika Stadium on Saturday, Mr. Livondo claimed that some individuals had in the past planned to assassinate the president. Now, considering how volatile the politics are at this time, I don't think our leaders should be so careless with their words. I mean, we're already so divided as it is as a country, and we are looking to, one, recover politically, which cannot happen unless we are united, and two, retain peace and, you know, basically progress and move forward. So I do join the deputy president's sentiments, and I urge every one of us to please keep the peace. Do not take what the politicians say to heart, because we have been there in the past. They say a lot of things that they do not mean, and just a lot of things to basically get us to vote for them, and we all know what happens after that.
It's a good thing, because yesterday Moses Kuria, who is Gatondo South MP, has already requested the DCI boss George Kinoti to arrest Stanley Livondo following this reckless statement. If all leaders became responsible, I think be responsible for whoever is under your party, be responsible for whoever speaks in those slurries. I think there would be change. And interestingly, in one of the local stations, Moses Kuria said, quote unquote, or his bid for his chama chakazi will be to sign as the guarantor for the aspirant. So he said, if I bring you an aspirant, then I become the guarantor of that aspirant. If he doesn't deliver, then I'll be responsible for him. Well, that sounded new for the political arena in Kenya, and I hope to see how he actually makes that work. It could be a good thing to see, like, the party leader take ownership of each and every person in the party.
Yes, and finally we get to look at a cartoon on the Daily Nation that is on page 16, where there is a graveyard and a gravestone with Jubilee, you know, the old emblem in which it was two hands holding each other. And then, like a zombie, there is now the new Jubilee with a dove as its emblem popping out of the grave. And whenever I do believe, yes. It's basically about how the Jubilee government the Jubilee party is trying to revive itself. Now, that brings us to the end of the newspaper review. I will be seeing you shortly after the short break for Hotspot. Do stay tuned. And remember, start your day with a glass of water. There is nothing better.
Yeah, and let the glass of water be Regis premium water, definitely.
Indeed. Yes.
Kevin will be coming back, and later on I'll be back with Let's Talk with tomorrow, career and branding, and how to make money out of the social media content. So it's something you don't want to miss.
Indeed, indeed. All that after the short break.